What is up, everybody? Today we're going to be discussing Miami Dolphins and who they should pick in the 2021 NFL Draft with pick number 6. Before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm doing draft updates and coverage for all 32 teams. Make sure you hit the notification bell. My upload schedule can be a bit crazy, so it's always good to stay notified when I upload. And yeah, who should the Miami Dolphins draft? So, for this series, if you've been following along, I'm doing 3 picks that I think could realistically happen. For this Dolphins team, I have 2 wide receivers and a linebacker. Let's get into it. So, linebacker, I got Micah Parsons out of Penn State, and then the 2 wide receivers I have are Mr. Jamar Chase out of LSU, and then Devontae Smith out of Alabama. So, we'll start off with Mr. Parsons here. So, he is a very talented linebacker out at Penn State. He just makes an impact on almost all areas of the field. There's one area he's a bit deficient in, but we're going to talk about that later. Just out there making all sorts of good plays. If you watch a Penn State game, you see him all over the field making plays. So, Parsons, he's just now 21 years old. He's 6'3", 245. So, not small by any means. Now, in terms of how long he's looked like a prospect, which is something we always try and cover, he has looked like a prospect basically his entire career at Penn State. So freshman season, he led the team with tackles and 82 tackles, even though he only started 1 game. Okay, so that's insane right there, honestly. 82 tackles in 1 season as a true freshman and only starting 1 game. So then, sophomore season, he recorded 109 tackles with 5 sacks, 3 deflected passes, and 3 forced fumbles, which is very good once again. Don't need to tell you anything else. And then he would have opted out this season, the 2020 Corona season, which I completely understand, especially with how screwed up the Big Ten was on it. So, he would be a decent pickup for the Dolphins. Next up, we get to talk about my man Jamar Chase out of LSU. So, many people think he is the top prospect in the draft in terms of wide receiver. That's obviously up for debate if you personally prefer Devontae Smith or if you prefer Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is the best prospect in this draft. And I think if the Dolphins had the chance to get him, I feel like they should get him. So, Jamar Chase, he played at LSU. He is a very good wide receiver. He's played 2 seasons and then opted out the 3rd season. So, freshman season, he recorded 23 receptions for 313 yards with an average of 13.6 yards per catch and 3 touchdowns total. So, not amazing by any means. But then, sophomore season, he exploded with 84 receiving yards, 84 receptions, 1,780 receiving yards. My bad for mixing that up. Averaging 21.2 yards per catch, along with 20 touchdowns. So some of the concerns that come along with this is Joe Burrow, right? Joe Burrow was an amazing quarterback, and there's some concern about since he opted out, we never got to see him with a quarterback whose name was not Joe in extended periods of time. So obviously that is a pretty big concern if you think about it, because Joe Burrow could just be making him look amazing. And obviously, if you watched the game, any of the LSU games, you would have seen that he did have very good pass catching skills, but it's just a risk with these players that have opted out or only had 1 good season. Are you getting a one-hit wonder, or are you getting a guy that is actually a good prospect? So with the next guy up, you don't have any concerns about this dude being a, quote, one-hit wonder due to the fact that he's looked like a NFL-ready wide receiver for 2 seasons, and that is Devontae Smith out of Alabama. So, Devontae Smith obviously won the Heisman this year, but he's looked like a prospect for 2 seasons now. So, junior season, he had 14 touchdowns, averaging 18.5 yards per catch, with 1,256 yards total, which is pretty good, I mean. And in senior season, obviously, he took it up to a whole nother level with 23 touchdowns. His yards per catch did decline slightly with 15.9, but he managed to increase his amount of receiving yards to 1,856, which is pretty good. So, if this was a Hollywood movie, Devontae Smith would go to the Dolphins. They'd make it to the Super Bowl, and Tua would throw a pass to Devontae on the same play they ran when they won the national championship. Everyone would be happy, but this is not a Hollywood movie, unfortunately. Ja'Marr Chase to the Miami Dolphins. He is the most talented pass catcher in this draft. I'm sorry, Alabama fans. You know who I'm talking about. But it's just kind of simple to me, honestly. The only way I can see him not getting picked at this position is if they think that the chemistry that Devontae Smith and Tua have would be enough to overtake Ja'Marr Chase's athletic, natural pass-catching abilities, right? So that's obviously a concern there with Devontae Smith is will his chemistry make up for the lack of, not lack of because the dude's, amazing, but his lack of compared to Ja'Marr Chase skills. If that's complicated for you, I'm sorry, but that's just the way I'm going to try and explain it to you. So, to recap the draft real quick, Trevor Lawrence going number 1, Zach Wilson number 2, Justin Fields number 3, Kyle Pitts number 4, Penny Swell number 5, and now Mr. Ja'Marr Chase number 6 to the Dolphins. So the linebacker position, just going to give y'all a little bit of a hint to show y'all why you should subscribe. But the linebacker position will be addressed later on by the Dolphins in the draft. So make sure y'all subscribe and hit the notification so you can be ready for that video when it drops. You all have an amazing day. I'll see y'all around. Love you all. Peace out. Make sure you subscribe, by the way. Forgot to throw that in there.